Hey guys, long time no see. Not that I haven't wanted to record a video in a while. In fact, I've had a bunch of games that were certainly worthy of YouTube videos, but the replays have continued to not cooperate, and I had a bunch of great games that I had to abort the recording of midway through due to the fact that they crashed around turn 5 or turn 6. So with no fix for that on the horizon, I'm sort of reduced to playing games and hoping that an occasional replay works out. But the overlap of a good game with a replay that functions is rare enough so that I'm feeling kind of discouraged about this whole process. But when I do get a good game that does cooperate, I will certainly record it for you guys to enjoy. This game is one of those games. Played just a couple minutes ago. I'm playing with Nin, and the reason I'm playing with Nin right now, not only is it probably my favorite deck to play right now online, but also I made a couple of changes to it based on the Aether Revolt set that have come in. I've actually added 3 cards. The cards that I've added are the Trophy Mage, which has lots and lots of great search targets, probably foremost the Veldic Shackles. Obviously the Crucible of Worlds, Coalition Relic is quite good too. And arguably you could even run Sculpting Steel to take advantage of it. But it's mainly those 2 targets in particular. Pause here for a second for a phone call. Alright, pardon that interruption. Anyway, as I was saying, so yeah, there's a bunch of good targets for a Trophy Mage, and certainly worth including for just Shackles alone, much less the Crucible of Worlds, and also Coalition Relic. And I actually cut the Worn Power Stone from the deck. I've kind of been on the fence about that card for a while now, and it just seems like it's definitely on the low end of quality spells in the deck, quality accelerators. It is really strong when you draw it early on with a Mox Diamond or something, or with obviously with the Workshop. But again, you can have too much colorless mana, and the deck is so blue hungry, and actually a little red hungry now too, that sometimes the colorless mana is not too useful. So the Power Stone's out. I removed the Dismiss from the deck for the second card from Aether Revolt, which is Disallow, which is just a functionally better reprint of Void Slime, and has a really nice place in the deck just as a hard counter for 3, and also because it has the ability to do awesome things like kill fetch lands as an instant speed Stone Rain occasionally, and do other cool things too from time to time, although those situations haven't come up yet. But certainly the flexibility of that card I think makes it worth using, and it's absolutely better than a card like Void Shatter, which is what I was using kind of in as a 3-mana counter in that spot. But I haven't really been too happy with Dismiss for a while, mainly because the deck has so many other card advantage engines to begin with. 4-mana counters are really clunky, and unless they do something like Rewind or Cryptic Command, which is just a very, very powerful secondary effect, Dismiss I don't think is quite worth using, and I was boarding it out in all of my multiplayer games anyway, so it was an easy card to cut. And the final card was Whir of Invention, which I believe is pretty sure I may not actually have it in this build of the deck currently. I have it in my online version. I'm sorry, my offline version, and haven't used it all too much yet. But the deck has enough blue sources, I think, to support it, and the fact that it has the ability to be an instant speed Fabricate for Mana Crypt, pretty insane. And the fact that it obviously scales, and you can go up to 4 mana to get Soul Ring, 6 mana to get the amazing 3-mana artifacts in the deck, and just the overall flexibility I think makes that card worth using. I'm not 100% sure that it's going to stay in the deck for the time being, but I think it's quite good for the short term. Anyway, this game I am against, mirror match. I think this may be the second mirror match I've ever played of these 2 decks online, so I figured it would be interesting from the get-go, and this is definitely a pretty cool game. I have an unkeepable draw going first, unfortunately, with just a Reliquary Tower, so I'm going to throw that back. And I get a very good keepable second hand with the Mana Vault. And one thing is certain about the Nin mirror match: whoever goes first has a huge advantage, given the fact that you get to get Nin on board first and have the ability to kill their Nin if they tap out to cast it. So I'm very, very happy that I won the die roll here. I'm going to scry. Mystical Tutor on top. And ordinarily I would actually keep this, certainly against decks that where I feel like they're going to be more proactive. I would keep it just to go get Mana Drain right away. It's also good as a nice hedge against an early Soul Ring or Mana Crypt, giving you the ability to get Vandal Blast. But I figure that because of the mulligan and because of the way my hand is structured here, I'm just going to be playing Nin and hoping to just draw off of it relatively quickly. And I don't see a space for Mystical Tutor to be cast in the early going, so I decided that I'm just going to pitch it, hopefully maybe to get some more acceleration or something, and just hope he doesn't have a Soul Ring. So I put that on the bottom. Just going to fetch Volcanic Island and see if I've got Whir of Invention in here right now. I guess it would be, it's all alphabetical. Okay, it doesn't look like it's in right now. I'm trying to think of the other card that I removed. So I removed Dismiss. I removed the Worn Power Stone. You actually don't see it here anymore. Oh, no, there it is. Okay, so that's the other card that I removed. And Void Shatter. And maybe it was a second, may have been a second 3-mana counter. I don't know. I'll do a deck tech of this soon enough, and you'll be able to see the whole list anyway about what changes were made. Regardless, I'm getting Volcanic Island right now. I'm putting up Mana Vault. Passing. So here I'm just hoping he doesn't have a quick artifact to punish me for putting away the Mystical Tutor, and sure enough he doesn't. So I just get to play my Nin the Pain Artist and have a huge advantage just in the early going, given that he can't play his general safely. He plays a mountain too. Notice these are both snow covered, which is interesting. Then again, I've got all snow covered land in my deck as an old relic from when I originally had scrying sheets in the deck when I first built it years ago. I just never bothered to change them. He's still just doing nothing. Bit of a temptation here to just draw 4. But I figure if he does have a 1-mana removal spell and he's able to counterspell the Nin on the way out, then he gets to cast his own Nin the Pain Artist and gets Nin board control. So I'm not willing to take that risk, and I'm not going to tap out until I can either be assured that the resolution of Nin is going to work, or at least I'm going to be able to protect it with a counterspell of my own. So I'm just going to wait. I was really hoping he would just tap out at some point and cast his own Nin, just get impatient, but he did not do that. I can admire his discipline. So end of turn here, I'm actually going to cast a Cryptic Command to bounce Command Tower, figuring it stuns his mana, it also costs him a card if he has to discard. In worst case scenario, it draws out a counterspell, which is kind of really what I want, because the Cryptic Command just sitting in my hand is not doing anything. I'm just going to cast it here on the Command Tower, and he's got Swan Song, which is actually quite nice, because now I have an outlet for Nin. Play the Reliquary Tower here. And I gave some thought to playing Felwar Stone, and in retrospect I absolutely should have, mainly because at this point, now that I'm switching over and I've got another target in play, there is a bit of a temptation to just unload 6 mana into this thing. And, I'm sorry, 8 mana into this thing to draw 6. But if he does have a removal spell, I kind of look a little silly because I've tapped my Mana Vault. So, in retrospect, my plan is just to shoot the bird for 1 extra card a turn, and to just get incrementally ahead until he deals with one of these 2 cards. And with that plan in mind, casting the Felwar Stone would have made perfect sense. But I didn't do that, so I'm just going to attack for 2. And pass, regretting not doing that. He just says done again. Most likely sitting on a bunch of counters and being grumpy about the fact that he can't play his general. So, end of turn, I'm going to go with that plan and shoot the bird. Pull. Scred. Alright, well, now I know why he has snow-covered land. And he's scredding Nin, which is a really interesting play here. So I give this some thought, and I figure, well, I can replay Nin and protect it with a counterspell, but I kind of feel like he'll fight over a counterspell right now. And one of the things with control decks, generally, especially in control and control, is you want to get your opponent to commit mana on their turn. Just counterspells get diluted a lot in power when people don't have as much mana available, because they can't counter as readily, given the fact that they may have the ability to only counter 1 time, and they don't really know what you're going to follow it up with. So, with that in mind, if I can counterspell here, he may just let it go. He may not even fight over it. And if he does, well, it'll allow me to probably force Nin back onto the table next turn pretty trivially, regardless. So, I'm going to counterspell now. And he thinks for a while, and then he casts a hard cast Complicate, which is interesting given that I've got a Mana Vault in play. So, I'm more than happy to pay the 3, given that it keeps my Nin in play. And then he's got 1 more mana to Force Spike. And that's fine. So I got 2 cards out of his hand just to kill the Nin. So he lost Force Spike and Complicate and Scred, and I basically just lost, well, I lost the counterspell and 3 mana off my Vault. But I still get to draw off the bird, which is still quite nice, and that's gotten me reasonably ahead now. I really want to draw a land here so I can just replay Nin right away. Did not. Well, I drew a quasi-land, a Mox Opal. Now I'm really punished for not playing the Felwar Stone early, because if I had it out, I would have been able to just play Opal and cast Nin with the Remand backup, and been really back in the driver's seat. So I play these cards in kind of poor order. I decide I'm just going to tap out to cast Nin, figuring the worst case scenario is some kind of removal, probably. And this at least keeps my own Nin on board so he can't play his own, given that I don't have an answer to it. So I probably play these in the wrong order. Obviously, if I'm going to intent on pondering, I should probably do that first on the off chance that there's something really backbreaking like a Planeswalker on top of my deck, like a Chandra or Jace. So I'm just going to ponder last. Impulse. Treachery Island. Very interesting, actually. The Treachery is really interesting because now I'm actually going to try to go for a game plan that involves him casting casting his Nin so I can steal it. And first part of that equation is certainly just putting the island on the top of my deck to draw. Impulse will be last, since I don't want to impulse past either of these cards, and I'll have Treachery as to draw next. So that's how I reorder them. Alright, feeling pretty good, barring a total disaster. And there's a range of cards he could have here that would be pretty catastrophic for me. Certainly something like a red Chandra that does permanent damage to a creature, like the one that deals 1 damage to a creature and ticks up on activation would be really bad, or the 5-mana Chandra would be really terrible. Future Sight potentially would be really bad. And Theft card would be pretty terrible too, though I have my own Treachery. His Treachery would be pretty nasty if he had 2 counters to go with it, but he doesn't have a lot of cards, so I feel like it's worth the risk. Strip Mine's my island, which is fine. I'm actually kind of happy to see that happen because it means that the range of things he could have is lower with only 5 mana available. And without even emptying my pool, he casts Jace, which is very interesting because he can bounce Nin and the bird will kill off Jace, or he can bounce the bird and allow me to have active Jace the Mind Sculptor. And sure enough, he goes with that plan, which probably makes the most sense, actually, given that it's awkward for me to use the Nin right now. I still get to draw 5 from it, though. So after thinking about this for a long time, I decided I'd really kind of want to protect my hand, or the board state, with the Remand, which means I'm not going to tap out to cast, to use Jace the Mind Sculptor. I'm just going to draw 4. Poor me. So there's 4 cards off Jace. I'm thinking, do not have a Lightning Bolt, or I'm probably going to die right now if he has it. And I get very, very nice set of 4, actually. And there's the Impulse, of course. I do get a land, which is really nice, and I get a Daze, which could be extremely important too, and some more card advantage. So I can fuel everything important here, and I'm feeling pretty good. Even though he's got an active Jace, I don't feel remotely out of this, especially because it's got 2 counters. And if I were him, I would not have brainstormed there. I think I would have gone up to 4 with the plan of just being able to chain bounce my Nin while playing his own. So we suspended Ancestral Visions there. Another card I really do not like in Nin the Pain Artist, given that it's such a card advantage deck already, you don't really need that effect. Ruination. Weird. I can understand why he's playing with this card, but I feel like there's enough good dual lands in Nin that you probably don't want to be that greedy. And it does punish me. I mean, it's 2 for 3, but I really don't want to have 3 of my lands destroyed at this point, so I'm going to Remand. And I've got it protected by a Daze, too. I guess I could have dazed the Ruination with Volcanic Island, returning it to my hand to protect it, and lost just these 2, but that's still annoying. I guess I can always do that later when he replays it. Okay, I get a Mana Crypt. Super nice. So I got to just solve this Jace the Mind Sculptor. Interesting. Amnesia. Okay. Well, he's only got 2 cards in his hand, and I know that one of them is Ruination, which I don't want him to resolve. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to Amnesia him regardless. But before I do that, I'd like to see what Impulse shows, just in case there's a bounce spell to put Jace back in his hand. So Impulse, and right on top is the Rift. Could not have been better. And I have perfect mana for that too. So I play my Crypt, turn the Jace to his hand, and we're going to take a gander at that hand. That tells you all you need to know. He scoops it up, and of course he did have a playback here, which was me only having 3 cards in hand. He gets a random card off the top of his deck, assuming that's 3 spells, and I think it is. And he could play his Jace and have Jace board control, but I do have the Treachery, and unless he had a hard counter right off the top to deal with it, he would be rightfully screwed. So I think that scoop was a little bit premature. He probably should have at least waited to see what I had in response to his Nin the Pain Artist. But he packed it in and gave the victory to me in the mirror match. Hope you guys enjoyed that game. And I will keep playing games, and whenever a good one shows up for me to record, I'll certainly put it up there. I had a game about a month ago, actually, that was unbelievable. It was one of the best games I've ever played, and the freaking replay crashed about 5 turns in. So you guys didn't get to see that one, and I'm sorry. But hopefully there'll be more on the horizon. Talk to you soon.